Hi, welcome, hello. This is going to be the last of my video blogs from the Walking Backwards into the Future pilgrimage that I was privileged enough to go on down the east coast of the States with Larry and Deborah Littlebird. And as you'll recall, the pilgrimage was to bear witness to the Holocaust and genocide that was meted out on the First Nations indigenous people of Americas as European colonial settlers arrived in the New World as it was then. And you know, I wanted to really just recap some of the takeaway impressions that I had from that journey. And I do so returning to the place really where I consider that pilgrimage first began, which is the Blue Idol Quaker Meeting House here in Coolham in West Sussex, which was founded by William Penn, George Fox and other prominent Quakers of their time and date. William Penn, of course, being the founder of Pennsylvania and then of Philadelphia, the city of Philadelphia. He was a great religious liberties, civil liberties, and promoter of universal peace amongst humanity, which we could probably do with a few more of those types of people now in our world. But the pilgrimage itself, for me, was profoundly disturbing. One of my earlier video blogs talked about the purpose of pilgrimage, not necessarily personal edification, which is often what a pilgrimage is. How do I be, can I be shaped in the presence of God through this journey with a purpose? This was more a pilgrimage of bearing witness to truth, lest we forget that many millions were genocidally removed from the world in order for us European colonizers, colonial settlers, to take over new lands. And on that journey, you know, we heard stories of Elim, who was the last of the Quinnipiac people, the last of a people who was known to Mo Armstrong, who came on our very first workshop day. We visited the massacre site at Turner Falls, where many thousands of people were killed by an English Colonel Turner. And it's interesting that the perpetrator of the massacre is then venerated as a hero and has the town named after him. We visited just north of the little town of Mystic, famous for Mystic Pizza, where the Pequot massacre took place. Again, a people massacred by English colonial settlers, which has now been whitewashed out of the landscape and turned into an affluent American suburb. And it is a deliberate whitewash. There's no other way of putting it. We visited Slightborough Flats, which was a beautiful area where a creek blends in, meets the Hudson River. Again, in Slightborough, a lady called, and let me just make sure I got her name, Sojourner Truth, who was a great daughter of the slave movement. She was a slave, won her freedom, and became a great speaker, preacher, abolitionist, suffragette for her own people, is venerated in that area. And her story is told. There are statues in the town for her, quite rightly as well, I would say. But interestingly, the original people that were there before it was settled, colonized, etc., are absolutely not in the story. We went to Lancaster County, the site of the Conestoga massacre. This time a massacre perpetuated by the Scots and the Irish. The very people fleeing persecution from their own countries become the persecutors in somebody else's land. And then finally we ended up at the Circle of Hope Church in Philadelphia, having gone through Penn State Treaty Park, where I witnessed Larry Littlebird getting down to the dirty edge of the Delaware River, where he was able to pray a blessing 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. It is done, as he blessed the water with his own water from Hamatzah, where he prayed for forgiveness for the past, where he prayed for future hope for those that would come after him, where he prayed for his own people. A very city founded by William Penn, the person that founded this place, the Blue Idol, who made a treaty with the people of the Delaware nation, saying that the English and the Delaware people will be friends forever. And where are the Delaware people now? They are off in Tennessee, somebody, forcibly removed from their homelands. The sons of William Penn broke that treaty and slaughtered thousands of Delaware people, overturning their fathers' prayers and spirit for peace and unity and, in his language, brotherhood amongst different types, different ethnic groups, different nations of people. My takeaway from this pilgrimage is a takeaway of lamentation. It is a takeaway of the realization that social evil is not an abstract philosophical theological debate. It is a lived reality which impacts people's lives on a daily basis. Meeting First Nations people on our journey, following Larry and witnessing how he interacted with these stories, made me realize that this genocide is not history. This genocide is still very much alive. And I think for Christians like myself, new monastics like myself, people that would espouse to follow in the footsteps of Jesus, the realization that the colonial settlers of North America, who came in the very name of Christ, were anything but the hands and feet of Christ, is not just a cause for concern, but it is the realization that we do have to start again. There is a burden upon us, placed by God, to start again, walk as Jesus walked, to believe the things that Jesus believed, and to recognize that the world system, as currently constructed, cannot deliver the peace and justice and reconciliation which these horrors and many other horrors demand take place. My prayer is that we will continue this walking backwards into the future pilgrimage at a future date, as we will work our way across America, bearing witness to truth. A nation founded in an untruth is not sustainable. For those of us that walk in Christ, I must bear witness to the man who said, I am the way, I am the truth. A constitution is not the truth. The man Jesus is the truth and the life. In that order, the way of pilgrimage, the way of truth, will lead us to a starting again in the new life. Maybe that is what it means to be born again. Another way of starting over.